Hey everyone, today I wanted to do lesson 2 of our word choice exercise. Um, Today we're going to talk about adding what they call poetic phrases. Now these are different types of figurative languages, many that we've talked about earlier in the year, and these can help your writing to improve, to be more colorful. All right. So, what is figurative language? Of course, poets use figurative language a lot to make their writing show the reader things in a different or interesting way. These are different ways that and they mention poetry, but it's used in a lot of different types of writing, just to paint a better picture for you, to give you a better idea of what the writer is actually writing about. The first type that we're going to talk about is alliteration. Alliteration is it's a literary term that means two or more words in a row that all start with the same sound. Rubber, baby, buggy, bumpers, or big blue balloon. Um, all these are examples of alliteration. The Three Gray Geese by Mother Goose. Three gray geese in a green field grazing. Gray with these were these the geese, and green was the grazing. Hyperbola. Hyperbola is a literary term that refers to an exaggeration, making something larger than life. We saw this a lot in the fables and the tall tales that we talked about. An example is, well, now, one winter, it was so cold that all of the geese flew backwards, and all of the fish moved south, and even the snow turned blue. And this is a quote from Babe the Blue Ox. Another example that we talked about earlier in the year is simile. In a simile, the words as or like are used to compare two different things. An example of simile is, I'm as blind as a bat. A metaphor is a literary term for comparing two things directly. Now, the difference between a simile and a metaphor is that a simile uses like or as, and a metaphor does not. So, an example of a metaphor: you are my sunshine. Onomatopoeia, one of my favorite words in the English language. Onomatopoeia is a literary term used when words imitate the sound it's describing. Pow, crash, boom. An example is, meow, meow, says the cat. Grunt, grunt, goes the hog. And squeak, goes the rat. Personification. Personification, again, is another thing, um, thing we talked about earlier in the year, and that's giving personal traits to things that aren't human. For example, hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon, the little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. And that, of course, is from Mother Goose. Imagery. Now, imagery is probably the most powerful one. It's a device that uses the senses. It can describe objects, wants, or thoughts. For an example, the news spread like leaves in a storm. Now, if you notice, this imagery is also an example of a simile because it uses the word like in it. So the news spread like leaves in a storm. All right, so your first task will be to stop this video, obviously, go into your Google Classroom and open up the worksheet number 1, literary terms. And what you'll do there is you will type in the correct literary term that matches the definition. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and stop the video and complete that worksheet. And then when you complete that, complete the exercise number 2. And so you're going to, again, go back to Google Classroom, open up worksheet number 2, and write a sentence using each of the literary devices. For number 3, you have the choice. You can choose simile, hyperbola, imagery, or onomatopoeia, whichever you choose. All right, and then don't forget, once you are finished, don't forget to turn in your assignment.